to week 4 in CIT15. I'd like to give you some more information as far as the way my IT lab works, and then I'm going to walk you through the other work for week 4 classwork. So we just finished, you all just finished doing your first My IT Lab item, and I had waited to record this to just talk about some issues that may have come out, and sure enough they did. So this is good, it's always timely. So as looking forward to by the time you watch this, you may have already completed the second one, but I suspect some of you may have checked this out before then, so hopefully just make your experience better. The good news is many of you got through the exam last night, no problem. A few of you did have a couple of issues and you contacted me. So here's what I'd like to just be clear about the stuff on the My IT Lab item. And by the way, right now you should be taking notes. As a matter of fact, the first heading that you'll use, and let me just scroll down here and show you because this is week 4. The first heading I want you to use is class topics, okay? And then once I've done with this, I'll walk you through how you have to complete the last part of this. So first, class topics. And under class topics, I want a subheading called My IT Lab. Okay. So here, and this is something you've heard me say, so now I'm going to reiterate this again, and this is definitely related to the My IT Lab work, is working ahead is really beneficial, okay, to you. Because if you're working the night it's due, which I get, sometimes that just happens, but just know that I'm not going to be available to help you. Okay, because I start early in the morning. My routine is I usually stop around 6 in the evening, depending on my day. Sometimes because I have meetings in the evening or the early evening, so I'm not available. Definitely on the night something's due, or on any night past a certain hour. So working ahead is really beneficial to you, because if you need help on something, I can't help you the night after any night after that time. So just please understand that, because I woke up to a few emails this morning and I tried to respond as late as I could last night. But again, I try to give you the opportunity to work on your own schedule, but just know that when it comes to these items, this may create a little bit of a challenge. But and every computer, as I've said before, is a little different, so that can also be the case. So, and I've said this before, but I'm going to reiterate this. Make sure you close everything before you start an exam, okay? It just helps your experience, because My IT Lab, depending on how fast your computer is, how much RAM, how fast your internet is, can really tax a system that may not have the most current technology loaded on it, okay? But having said that, I did have a couple students last night report to me issues. Most of the issues that I heard of were actually folks not enabling the pop-up blocker. So that's something that I talked about in week 2 classwork. So if you don't have that, if you are clicking on things and it's not showing up, it's most likely the pop-up blocker. But one student had an issue where something wasn't completing, and they did what I recommend, which is they contacted support. Interestingly enough, support told them to get back to me directly, which is something I'm still trying to work out with the My IT Lab folks to make sure I understand how this works, okay? So here's what I want to say is, if you are working on something in My IT Lab and it is not working, okay, there you feel like, yes, I've done this right, it is not working, you're welcome to send me the actual number, and I'll show you in a minute how to find that. And then I will check it out on my system, and I'll use, and by the way, tell me, right, I'm using a Mac, or I'm using a Windows 10, Windows 7, I'm using a Chrome browser. So the more information you give me, the more likely I can at least try to recreate that, right? So I'll show you in a minute again what that number would look like that you would want to report to me. But also let me be clear, and I noticed this yesterday, is that sometimes when you're using the practice on the trainings, they may not work. So always use as a backup the video, watch the video for the learning aids, because I had a couple students yesterday when they were doing it and they got hung up because the practice didn't seem to be working correctly, but when they watched it, they got the instruction they needed to complete, okay? Now this is just on the training though. And remember, the whole purpose of the training is to get you to the exam, right? The whole purpose of the training is to get you to the exam. So, and I do give other reasons to do the training, which is late points return that I talked about last week. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to move over to already logged in to my IT lab and looking here. And what I want to show you is how I have you report the scores. Now, for the trainings, obviously you don't have to right now. We'll talk about, how you set up that sheet in a week or so. But for now, also know that you can view submissions for the training. Now, why you might want to do that is if you're having one that doesn't work, okay, you can actually come in here, and what's great about this, it'll actually give you the step-by-step instructions. And often it'll give you the alternatives for if you can't do it one way, you try another. So this is really helpful information. Place that into your notes, into your class topics, that when you view submissions, you get the detailed step-by-step instruction that may be helpful. Now in training, this is good because you want to get through this, but where this may really come in more handy is in the exam. So when you view submissions, remember that you have 3 attempts at this exam, okay? And if you miss something on the first one, you can go in and look at the detailed instructions, okay? Again, it shows you exactly what to do. And you can take that thing again, attempting to increase your grade, because I give you 3 attempts at that exam. Okay, so make sure that you're, because if you go through it once, going through it a second time, especially after you read what you got wrong, right, that's when it can be helpful. So, but I also want to show you this. These are the numbers that I need. And I'll show you how to get the number here. Now this check marks means you got it right, so it'd probably be the one you didn't get right that you'd be sending me. But this is what I'd want to know, right? So first thing I'd want to know is the step number. Okay, like this one, I know I did it right, Rio, but it didn't correctly register. And then again, I'll recreate it on my side, and if I say if on my system it doesn't work either, then I'll report that to my IT lab. But if on my side it does, then I'll have you go ahead and contact them. Okay, that's how we're going to do this now, or do this for now. So here's the other thing. You can also report it this way. Like if you come in and you open it, you open the My IT Lab item, because you get that same number, okay? You get that same number when you're in the item itself. So when you're asking for help, also tell us WD 1.11, okay? So word, and that's what that means, step 1.11. Now remember here, when you go through, all these items generally have more than one step, okay? And so, but this is the thing I would need to know to start researching it or recreate it on my side. The other thing you can do is you can view all here, and you can see these numbers listed here as well, okay? So that's all I wanted to say about that. Again, using this keyboard is really, really helpful, okay? All right, coming back here, let me make sure I cover this because this is such important information, right? So if you're having an issue with my IT lab, make sure you're you're reporting to me, giving me the issue number so that I can recreate it. But if I find I can do that number on my system, then it's most likely something on your system and you'll need to actually contact them. Do make sure that if you're using practice, because I've noticed those aren't as consistent, at least do the next step and watch the video to get through to know how to do something. And I didn't say this here, well, I did show how to view the step-by-step instructions on both of these, okay? But the other thing is on this one is that do the exam as soon after the training as possible, okay? Now, hopefully that helps your experience. But the other thing is, and I want you to understand this because a couple of people got confused by this, because we're using, and this goes in your notes, a simulated environment, you actually don't need Word yet, but you will when we get to the lab test, okay? So we have 4 chapters of Word work, and then we get to the lab test, and that is where you're going to need Microsoft Word. Okay, and if you don't have it, I logged on to the campus email today and I found that it was easily there. So if you're wondering about that, is in the syllabus, and this is a repeat, but that's okay, there is some information about how to get Microsoft Office downloaded. Okay, all right, so just to be clear here is that ultimately when we get to here, and by the way, this is actually worth more in our course as well. So if you come over here and look, the lab test, there's only 3 of them. They're worth 5% each. So they weigh heavily on your grade. Okay, they're almost right up there with the final. The final is 10% and each of these is 5%. Okay, so and if you've ever wondered about that, if you didn't notice, I broke down these items specifically so you can see the percentage. Okay, all right, so coming back here, so hopefully that gives you at least a process for now. I'm still learning as we're going because this new version, and like I said, I had done them all beforehand, but you know, sometimes it's hard to say what the issue that you may be running into, but working ahead is to your advantage. Okay, now the other thing I will say, and I've said this at the beginning of one of the videos, is that I've now sent a message to our internal TSS folks for you all to get the MS Imagine, which gives you Windows 10, Windows 7, and Microsoft Access. Okay, now this is important for anyone once we get to the Microsoft Access work, which is not for a little while. Okay, so it won't be until we get on to, in fact, if you look through the schedule, you can actually see we don't get this until November. But I just want you to know now that, and especially for students using Windows, or sorry, students using Mac, they might want to install the Windows operating system. Now, here's the link, and I'll provide this. Now, you're not going to be required to take notes on this, but this is really just to help you walk through installing Microsoft Access, okay? Because in your notes, let's be clear, right? You can get Word and Excel and PowerPoint for free from the campus email. Okay, so you can get Word, Excel, PowerPoint for free. You cannot get Access. Microsoft Access does not come in this free offer that you get out of the campus email, but it does come out of the MS Imagine program that I have now set you all up for. Okay, so in your notes, let's make sure I get that information, or you get it so I know you, so I can read it so I know you have it. Okay, all right. All right, so that's that part, and you'll have notes on that. So the other thing now you'll need to do is you'll have a new heading that says how computers work. We're going to switch topics here. We're going to have you watch a short video about binary systems. This is the way, this is the low level, how computers work. It's just fundamental to taking any computer class. And then I'm going to give you a little hands-on experience here. Okay? So, and then you'll need another heading. Once you take the notes on the binary answer, you'll need another heading. Sorry, once you take notes on how computers work, and then you'll have a binary answer heading. And let me just walk you through, even though I've given you instructions, let me just walk you through. I've given you a link to a website here, okay? And in this case, you're going to copy and paste the zeros and ones to figure out what I'm saying. Now, this is not it. You'll need to do this on your own. So first you copy and paste the zeros and ones and you hit decode. Okay, and so in this case it's going to come over here and it's going to tell me, now this is not the message, I'm just giving you the example. Okay, so first, step one, figure out what I'm asking you. Okay, then write your answer to my question. Okay, and then come down here, hit spaces, and encode it. So this is the way computers work. They actually take our written language and they convert it into the binary system. So now what you'll do is once you get your answer, then you'll copy that and place that into your notes. Okay, so first figure out what I'm asking you, and I show you, I step through it here, and then give me your answer, right? And then in your notes I will see a series of zeros and ones. Now let's be clear, if you don't select this separator here, it'll just be well, you can look at it. Now this is not the correct way, and this is why, because it just goes in one line, and it helps you clearly see each letter has its own series of zeros and ones, which is really part of what I want you to get here. Okay. Okay, so that's that work. So that's the binary answer. I should have some zeros and ones. I should not see English written in here. I should only see binary. And then the last one is how quantum computers work. Okay, how to program a quantum computer, because it really starts talking about the next version of this binary system, because this binary system has worked great for us, but now we're getting to the place where hardware is not able to handle the micro level that we've created our circuits to be. So we're going to have to go to the next thing, which in some people's minds is quantum, but there are other options. But Michio Kaku, one of my favorite people in the world, actually saw him in Fresno a year or so back. He's awesome. But so you'll have another heading, and in here you'll take notes on how to do this. Okay, so I know there's quite a bit this time, but I really want you to get having a good experience with my IT lab. I've tried to give you that help. I've given you, the process for hopefully working ahead and why and how you report to me. Know that ultimately I may have to send you back to them, but making sure you give me as much information, and I'll try to recreate issues as I can. And then understanding the learning aids really are only there to help you get to the exam itself, and then talking about getting the step-by-step instructions. But ultimately where we end up with this is the lab test, okay? Or what we call the exam. Matter of fact, if you wanted to, and I will end with this, if you wanted to, in my IT lab, look forward to where we'll go here, they are available under exams, and they're called hands-on test. I may change my wording to make sure I'm consistent here so you can see these. So this is where you actually are going to download, and I'll cover this in a later video, but you'll download a starter file. You'll have a series of steps that you have to complete to the actual Word document, and then you'll upload that back into the system for grading. Okay? All right, enough for today. Have a great rest of your week.